Welcome back to another episode of the Mills Knows Bills podcast. I'm your host, as well as current CEO of MKB, Mills Bender. And with me today, I have Trevor Cowley joining us again today, where we're going to go over part 2 of our podcast. Trevor, if this is somebody's first time listening to you, give a brief little intro. And if you missed last week's episode, go back and get caught up before listening to this one.
So I'm Trevor Cowley. I'm an owner of 4 different businesses. I own an accounting firm, a credit repair company. I do have a marketing company and have the Real Business Owners Mastermind. I've been successful in business, several different business ventures. So it wasn't one time get lucky in a certain industry. So I wasn't born rich. Let's just put it that way. It was all hard work and earned. And so I have a collective amount of experience in different industries, different businesses, and feel like I've been through the gamut. So let's just say this tiger has earned his stripes.
I think it's incredibly admirable, though, because it allows you to have perspective in so many different businesses and solve problems in different ways. And I think that's really cool. So today is your opportunity to ask me anything that you would like to know. What can I answer for you?
We share some similarities in terms of business ventures. And so what I've seen quite often, in the accounting realm, so to speak, is people are not looking at their finances. Like,
what?
Business owners are more focused on the money coming in than where it's going,
Yeah.
And so I wanted to know from your perspective, because we've handled more, smaller businesses. The businesses that you work with are, usually at a phase where they need a heavy set of eyes on what they're doing, not just like a basic bookkeeper for a couple $100 a month. And so do you see that also at some of the levels that you're currently working with businesses doing 5 million, 10 million, 15 million? It's like they got there somehow, but they don't have a wrangle on their finances. Was that common for you?
It is, but it's not always because they're afraid of it. It's really because they're too busy and they don't have the time or desire to learn the financial jargon. They see their revenue coming in, but they don't realize that revenue does not mean good cash flow.
Yeah.
They will look at their profit and loss and see that they're profitable, but they don't realize that it doesn't show their owner draws or payments to their principal debt. So they're really not as profitable as they think they are. They will see that they've build out all of these projects, but they're unaware of the fact that their receivables are over 90 days. So it's a lot of the different components where they're just putting their heads down and they're doing the work.
Yeah.
They don't have somebody who's having that oversight saying, oh, you got to keep an eye on that. Or they don't really have the time to do that themselves,
Yeah. What's the biggest pain in the butt for you in the industry that you're in? Is it communicating? Like, tax season's obviously crazy, right? You guys you're not really preparing the taxes, correct?
No, we have a partner with Kluge and Debo who prepare taxes, but MKB does not do them. No.
Yeah. What we saw is if there's somebody doing this over here, somebody's doing this over here, and then somebody's over here doing their tax, it's like now all of these threads of communication have to start happening. And I was wondering if you saw some of the inefficiencies of people not trying to be under one umbrella, so to speak, or work with somebody that has a close partner to where they already are familiar with that level of communication. Have you had to work outside of that partner, and then it becomes just kind of dreadful, so to speak?
Not necessarily, because MKB itself has created systems and processes to ensure that if the client is not talking to their accountant and bookkeeper at least once a quarter, we are. And so what I'll say is for most of our clients, MKB touches at least 2 of those 3 components: bookkeeping, CFO, and taxes. So it allows us to do our job a lot better because then we just handle the communication amongst all of the parties, inclusive of the business owner. So it was a problem until I decided to stop letting it be an obstacle and just start bringing things in house or partnering with companies that we could work with.
Gotcha. So you saw the problem and created a process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
so
mean, it became such an annoying problem, especially the
yeah,
bookkeeping side, where the books we would analyze would be either untimely, inaccurate, or just not detailed.
yeah,
So we it got to a point where I was so fed up that I just hired a bookkeeper. And I told my clients, I'm like, hey, this is what we're doing now. If you want to bring your books over, let me know. This person will be trained up into our systems and processes by this date. And within the next 2 days of me sending that email, I had generated enough revenue to cover the cost of that bookkeeper.
yeah. How often do you see bad books when you're taking on a new client?
95% of the time.
Yeah. Why do you
95%.
why do you think that is? Just trying to find the cheapest, or they're doing it themselves, or
Doing it themselves and outgrown the role, right? Like
mm,
having somebody in your family do the books for you when you're doing 10 transactions a month is one thing. Doing it when you have 100 plus transactions a month and they're not a bookkeeper, they don't really have the experience, that can cause a lot of issues.
mm,
They're also, if they're outsourcing it to somebody else, they're finding the cheapest solution typically, which again might be okay when you're a smaller shop, but as you grow, you need somebody who can provide more proactive guidance in that capacity. And then lastly, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. There's no barriers to entry when it comes to bookkeeping. You don't need to go to school to be a bookkeeper. You don't. So anybody can just get trained up in QBO's bookkeeping academy
yeah,
and go out and do books.
yeah,
Problem with that is just because you're doing the categorization doesn't mean you have a financial mindset. And I'm not I'm not crapping on the bookkeeping industry, okay? All I'm saying is if you are a business owner, you need to make sure that you're hiring the right person for your role. And so a few components that you as a business owner need to make sure of is, are your books getting updated consistently? My suggestion is no less than weekly. If your books are getting done once monthly, you're already behind the eight ball. You also want to make sure that you have detailed categorizations. It's not enough to have everything lumped underneath revenue, especially if you have 5 different revenue verticals. You should have it broken out by vertical. You should have your subscriptions broken out by each subscription. Have everything as detailed as possible. Yes, you're going to pay a little bit more for that. However, it gives you the data to make better decisions. A lot of people want to cut corners on what they pay for bookkeeping because they feel like it's a necessary cost of business. It costs you more not paying well for a good bookkeeper.
so back in the day, very new in entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
we had a bookkeeper, and I'd look at it, and it would just like one of the line items just said Capital One card, and I'm like, but
No.
what's on that? Yeah,
Yeah. What are
so
the expenses?
yeah, there's expenses, like, I don't think that should be a item, and I was, like, new to business at that point when we were running a business funding company. This was prior to having an accounting firm, but it was, I was like, the Capital One, like, we're spending money on that for, like, ads, we're spending money for
Yeah.
food, we're spending like, you should be taking those expenses out of the Capital One card and itemizing these
Yes.
expenses
And
so that we
balancing it
know
with
where our money's
payment
going,
and
not just Cap One. It's like
yes.
we know we use the Capital One card, but like, where's the money going? And so that's
I
just kind of
see.
to validate
I think
your.
one of my favorite pieces on a P&L, and this was recently, the bookkeeper was categorizing payments to a credit card as other income because it was considered like a credit card rebate. They're making a payment against a balance. based off the expenses that they accrued. It was so bad. They were artificially inflating their profit by about 10%.
Well, we had a buddy reach out to me, and he's like, "Man, I want you to take a look at something for me. Like, my guy's telling me that I owe all this money in taxes, and it just doesn't feel right."
Mhm.
Anyways, so his person never took into account his basis, any of the money that he was putting into his business. So when he took the money back out of his business, which was like 400,000 that he had injected into it, he was having him pay taxes on taking his
The
own money out.
distribution,
Yeah,
but
that just he
it's
put it as like he was getting paid a distribution rather than receiving his basis. Yeah, giving back his money that he used for the business. And so it's like, yeah, we saved him 120 grand just by being like, dude, that was your basis. You don't need to pay any tax on that. And so it's like so crazy to me how much money can go out the window just by like something being mislabeled
yep.
or categorized wrong or whatever it is. And so, anyways, I just wanted to
Oh,
share
yeah.
our end of conversation rants of horror stories that we've seen,
It's
just to kind of like put it into context, right?
yeah.
Like to make sure that it's like it's not just two people on here just saying that. It's like real stuff
It
that impacts people's bottom line. It's like
mhm.
the real deal. And it's just, again, not the fun, cool, sexy stuff, but at
I
the end of the day,
mean, pocketing extra money rather than paying it to the IRS is pretty sexy.
the process to,
The process though, like,
yeah,
right.
exactly. End result, yes, right? It's almost like, working out. It's like, yeah, maybe not so fun. The end result, yeah, you look sexy. Good job. Keep it up. And it's like, yeah, it's like, I don't want to keep it up. This is brutal. So,
Hilarious.
anywho,
Well, any other questions I could answer for you today?
oh, I think that's it. I think we went on
Perfect.
a little riff for
I
a
like
second.
it. I
Yeah.
like it. That was fun.
That was
Well, thank you all for joining us for part 2 with Trevor. If you would like to learn more about RBO, go to joinrbo.com. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.